them. What happens when you dismiss someone because they don't fit your narrow view of what's powerful, what's capable, or what's deserving? You end up setting the stage for your own downfall. You end up losing opportunities, credibility, and respect, all because of your own biases. We all have assumptions, we're human. But it's time to break them. It's time to stop judging people by the surface and start seeing the potential, the power, and the value in every individual. It's time to stop underestimating others and start acknowledging their strength. Think about your assumptions for a second. Have you underestimated someone today? Maybe it was a colleague, a friend, or even a stranger. What could you have missed by not taking the time to really see them? How many opportunities have you lost, or how much respect have you failed to earn, simply because of your assumptions? The truth is, when we stop seeing people for who we think they are and start seeing them for who they really are, we open the door to better relationships, better opportunities, and a deeper understanding of the world around us. It's time to break free from those judgments, and look beyond the surface. It's time to embrace the power in every individual, because no one is as simple as they may seem. One action, one choice, and everything changes. Let me ask you, have you ever done something that, once done, couldn't be undone? Maybe you acted impulsively, without thinking, and in that split second, your world shifted. You felt the ground beneath you tremble. You thought you had control, but in reality, you were just a passenger on a train you couldn't stop. This is exactly what happened in Danielle's case when she slapped Eloise. In that moment, everything changed. The power dynamic was shattered. The control she thought she had evaporated in an instant. Danielle thought she was in charge. She thought her position gave her power. But that split-second decision revealed the truth. Power is never as solid as we believe it to be. The slap wasn't just a personal outburst. It wasn't a small incident that could be swept under the rug. It was a public, explosive display of arrogance and disrespect that would have far-reaching consequences. Like a spark igniting a room full of dry timber, it created a fire that Danielle was completely unprepared to handle. When you act in haste, when you respond from emotion, you unleash something bigger than yourself. Danielle's slap wasn't just about a disrespectful passenger, it was about a shift in the entire dynamic. One action, one choice, and suddenly, Danielle wasn't in control anymore. The chaos was in motion. Let me ask you, how often have you made a decision in the heat of the moment, without considering the consequences? Think about it. Maybe it was in a conversation, a confrontation, or a choice you made at work. What did you unleash by making that choice? Was it a ripple or a tidal wave? When you let your emotions drive your decisions, when you don't think before you act, you set yourself up for a harsh reality check. Danielle learned that the hard way. She thought she was in control, but now, the tables had turned. The consequences were closing in fast, and she was no longer in the position of power. Her actions, however impulsive, had just begun a chain reaction that would change her life forever. The storm was building. Danielle hadn't just stirred a breeze, she had caused the eye of a hurricane. She wasn't prepared for what was coming, but now, it was inevitable. One action had unleashed a world of consequences, and they were coming for her fast. Ask yourself this: how often have you acted without thinking about the aftermath? And when you look back, what were the consequences of that decision? Were they small ripples, or did you ignite a storm? What you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. It's a simple but powerful concept. When you make decisions, when you act impulsively, you're sowing seeds for your future. Danielle, in her moment of recklessness, sowed seeds of regret, and now, she was about to see what they would yield. Think about it. Danielle thought she was making a small, justified decision. She thought that by asserting her control, she was making a point. But she didn't realize that one reckless act would tear apart everything she had worked for. Her career, her reputation, her future, all shattered by a moment of impulsive action. Let me ask you, what are you sowing today? What seeds are you planting in your life? Are they seeds of success, of integrity, of purpose? Or are they seeds of regret, planted with haste, without thought? Because when you plant the wrong seeds, they will grow into something you didn't expect. Every action is like a stone thrown into water. At first, it may seem small, but soon, the ripples extend far beyond what you can see. Danielle's slap wasn't just a personal mistake, it rippled out into her entire life. It affected her career, her relationships, her reputation. It impacted everyone around her, and the ripple effect continues to spread. When your actions don't just affect you, but everyone in your orbit, you create a reality you can't control. Think about it. How many of your decisions today are affecting the people around you, even in ways you don't see? How many of your choices are leading to unintended consequences? One moment, one choice. Danielle's moment of poor judgment cost her everything. It wasn't just about the slap, it was about what came next. The storm she started wasn't over, it had only just begun. Her career, her reputation, and her place in the world, everything was now on the line. How many of us think our careers are bulletproof? We walk around with this sense of invincibility, assuming that nothing can touch us. But the truth is, our careers are fragile. Our reputations are fragile, and the moment you think they're untouchable is the moment you're at risk of losing everything. Danielle learned that lesson too late. The professional fallout was swift and unforgiving. Years of hard work, relationships built on trust, and a reputation she had spent her life building, all of it was torn apart in an instant. That's the reality of reckless decisions. So, let's reflect. What are the consequences of your actions today? What are you sowing for tomorrow? The road back from a decision like this is long, painful, and full of regret. But the good news is, it doesn't have to be the end. You have the power to change. Right now, in this moment, you have the opportunity to shift your course, to make better decisions, and to create a future you can be proud of. The power to change is in your hands. The power to make better choices is in your hands. It's never too late to correct the path, to take ownership of your actions, and to learn from the mistakes of others. What's important is that you recognize the impact of your choices and use that awareness to build the future you deserve. Now, ask yourself, what will you do differently today? What seeds are you planting for your future? Let's stop acting on impulse and start acting with purpose. Let's make choices that lead to a legacy of integrity, strength, and wisdom. Let me ask you something. What would happen if you remained calm and composed when everyone around you expected you to react? What if, in the face of aggression, you chose to stay grounded instead of getting swept up in the chaos? Can you maintain your power without ever raising a hand? You see, true strength doesn't come from aggression. It doesn't come from dominating others with your words or actions. True power lies in the quiet control you have over yourself. And this is where Eloise's unseen power shines. In contrast to Danielle's impulsive, reactive behavior, Eloise exuded an unmatched calmness. While Danielle's anger and frustration led her to make a rash decision, Eloise stayed poised. She didn't allow the external chaos to dictate her actions. Her silence, her self-control, her composed demeanor, these were the qualities that gave her real power. In that charged situation, Eloise wasn't loud, she wasn't demanding respect. She simply was. And in being herself, she became the most powerful presence in the room. In a moment where everything was falling apart, Eloise was the calm ocean. Danielle was the ship lost in the storm. Eloise didn't need to shout, she didn't need to retaliate. Her quiet strength was more powerful than any words or actions. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how the most composed person in the room can shift the energy without uttering a single word? It's as though their presence alone commands respect. It's like watching the tide change. That's the power of composure. True power doesn't come from trying to dominate others. It comes from mastering yourself. Think about your own life. Have you ever let your emotions dictate your responses? What would have happened if you had stayed calm, composed, and in control of your actions? Eloise teaches us that emotional control isn't about weakness, it's about strength. It's about being able to act with dignity and purpose, regardless of the situation. And that's the lesson we can all take from Eloise. Strength isn't about force, it's about discipline. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's about recognizing that the most powerful people in the room are often the quietest ones, those who don't need to scream to be heard. They simply stand firm, composed, and dignified. Ask yourself, how can you adopt Eloise's calm strength in your own life? How can you respond to conflict with dignity, and in doing so, empower yourself and others? There is immense power in silence. Eloise's use of silence wasn't just about staying quiet, it was about wielding her composure like a weapon. The strength of her silence spoke louder than words ever could. It wasn't about avoiding the confrontation, but about choosing to respond in a way that neutralized the aggression around her. Her calmness was her weapon. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do in a moment of tension is nothing at all. Think about how many times we get caught up in the noise around us, trying to argue, defend, or outdo someone else. But what if, instead, you let silence speak for you? What if your presence alone had the power to shift the entire situation? Just as a chess player uses silence to confuse and outmaneuver their opponent, Eloise used her quiet strength to control the situation. She didn't feel the need to react immediately. Her silence wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a strategic move. It was a way to regain control over her emotions and shift the power back in her favor. Reflect for a moment. Can you recall a time when your silence helped you maintain control? When you chose not to react in the heat of the moment, and it worked out in your favor? Maybe you stayed quiet during a disagreement, and the situation diffused itself without escalating. Maybe you didn't answer a provocation, and the tension evaporated. Mastering silence is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. Silence allows you to control the narrative, to shift the energy in the room. It forces others to think, especially those who are expecting you to react in the same way they do. When you choose to remain calm, others are left to confront their own actions, and they're forced to deal with their own energy. I challenge you to reflect on your own life. When faced with a tense situation, how often do you respond out of emotion or react instinctively? And how might things have been different if you used silence strategically instead? The next time you find yourself in a moment of high tension or conflict, pause before reacting. Let silence be your response. Control the narrative, control yourself, and watch how the dynamics shift in your favor. Silence doesn't always need words. Silence can speak volumes. The power of silence is the power of self-control, and the power of self-control is the power to influence any situation. Let me tell you something. There's a moment in life when the mask falls, when the illusion you've been living under shatters. And in that instant, you realize that everything you thought you controlled was never truly in your hands. Danielle learned this the hard way. In the beginning, she felt powerful, didn't she? Confident in her position, secure in her authority. She thought she had the reins, she thought she was in control. But then came that one moment, the slap, and everything changed. It wasn't just about the slap. It was about who she slapped. That's the truth. Think about that. It wasn't a simple act of anger, it was a reckless mistake that she would never be able to undo. The power dynamic shifted in an instant, and Danielle was no longer in control. She had crossed a line, and she didn't even know it until it was too late. How often have we acted impulsively, without fully realizing the weight of our actions? How many times have we crossed a line, only to wake up and realize we've made a mistake with far-reaching consequences? You don't have to be a flight attendant to know what it feels like to misjudge a situation and then feel the consequences come crashing down. In that moment, Danielle realized the depth of her error. The veil was lifted, the truth became clear in a way she never expected. She had just disrespected someone of immense power, someone with the ability to change her life in the blink of an eye. And as she began to understand who she had just crossed, the fear set in. The full consequences began to dawn on her. This is where the real shift happens. When the adrenaline fades and reality hits, we are forced to confront our own shortcomings. That moment of realization is where true growth begins. Danielle learned that her arrogance, her belief that she could act without consequence, was nothing but an illusion. Think about your own life. How many times have you acted in the heat of the moment, only to realize the true weight of your actions later? Think about the moments when you wished you could take it back. The power of awareness is that it can change everything. When we truly see the situation for what it is, we can pivot, we can learn, and we can make better choices moving forward. So, ask yourself, when did your awareness change the course of a difficult situation? And what did you learn from it? Now, let's talk about the lesson Danielle learned the hard way. Humility is the key to success, especially when dealing with power. You see, humility is the bridge that connects arrogance to true strength. And for Danielle, it was a painful but necessary lesson. What's more important, being right or being humble? Think about that for a second. When was the last time you allowed your pride to stand in the way of what was truly important? We've all been there. We've all let our ego drive us, only to realize later that it wasn't worth it. And yet, humility? Humility leads to growth. Humility leads to connection. Humility is the foundation for true leadership. Danielle learned that the cost of arrogance is steep. She didn't just lose her job, she lost the respect of those around her. She humiliated herself, and in doing so, she stripped away the years of trust and credibility she had built. It's like a tower built on sand. Arrogance can only stand for so long before it crumbles under pressure. Now, I want you to think about the cost of your own arrogance. How many relationships have you damaged because you couldn't set your ego aside? How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you were too busy proving a point instead of listening or learning? But let me be clear, humility doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you shrink or bow down. Humility means recognizing that no matter how much power or authority you hold, you are never above learning, never above understanding others. True power doesn't come from exerting control. It comes from respecting others, understanding that you don't know everything, and using your influence to uplift those around you. Think about a leader you admire, someone who you truly respect. Now ask yourself, did they rise to the top by pushing others down? Or did they get there by recognizing their own faults, learning from them, and inspiring others with their humility? Danielle's journey from arrogance to humility can be a turning point in her growth, and it can be the same for you. The most successful people aren't those who have it all figured out. They're the ones who are willing to learn, who embrace humility as a tool for growth. They're the ones who understand that their true strength lies not in their ability to control, but in their ability to respect and learn from others. So here's your challenge. Practice humility in your own life. Recognize where your pride has been standing in the way, and take a step back. Ask yourself, how can you use humility to open doors, to build stronger relationships, and to create more opportunities for success? Humility isn't just a lesson for Danielle, it's a lesson for all of us. Because in the end, the power we seek comes not from dominating others, but from mastering ourselves. Let me tell you something. Every action you take, every word you speak, sends out a ripple into the world. It's easy to forget that the smallest decisions can trigger massive, far-reaching consequences. Take Danielle's decision to slap someone. A moment of anger, a fraction of a second, and yet, that one impulsive act set off a chain reaction she never could have anticipated. Think about this. A stone thrown into water doesn't just sink. It creates ripples that spread far beyond what you see. A small pebble, tossed into a still pond, causes waves that expand, reaching every corner of that water. That's what happens with your choices. You may not see the full impact right away, but trust me, it spreads. Now, let's break it down. Danielle thought she was in control, confident in her role. But in an instant, that slap, just one mistake, was the catalyst for everything that followed. First, her removal from duty. Then, the public humiliation. And ultimately, the loss of her job. One action, one choice, and everything changes. It's easy to feel like we're untouchable, that our decisions don't have consequences, that we can get away with things because we have power or authority. But I'm here to remind you, one choice can undo everything you've worked for. It's the law of cause and effect. What you sow today, you will harvest tomorrow. And if you sow seeds of chaos, anger, or arrogance, don't be surprised when regret is the crop you reap. Think for a moment. Can you imagine the storm your small actions could create? What if you never realized the impact you made? This isn't just about Danielle's career. This is about every decision you make, no matter how small. Every interaction, every choice you make, impacts the people around you. And the longer you ignore the ripple effect, the more devastating the storm will be when it hits. Danielle didn't realize the magnitude of her decision until it was too late. She acted on impulse, in the heat of the moment, and in doing so, she unleashed a storm of consequences she couldn't control. And you know what? You can't always predict the fallout of your decisions. But you can choose how to act in the moment. And that choice can have far-reaching effects, positive or negative. Turning points. How small actions lead to larger shifts. The truth is, every small act can be the turning point in someone's life, yours, or someone else's. Think about it. One angry word, one careless decision, one judgmental action, it doesn't stay isolated. It sets off a domino effect, altering everything that comes after. What you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. Danielle's rash decision planted the seed of regret. And now, she must watch it grow into a forest of consequence. What's your seed? What are you planting today that will shape tomorrow? I want you to reflect for a moment. How many times have you acted without thinking, only to face an unexpected and possibly irreversible shift in your life? Those small decisions, how they accumulate, become the defining moments of your future. So ask yourself, what ripple are you creating with your actions today? Now, let's take a step back and think bigger. It's not just about your life, your job, your choices. Every decision you make ripples out and impacts the lives of those around you. And guess what? You don't always see it. You might not realize how your actions are affecting others. What ripple are you creating today? How will your actions influence the people around you? We like to think we live in our own bubble, making decisions that only affect ourselves. But let me tell you this, the web we're all part of is far more connected than we realize. Your choices affect your friends, your family, your coworkers, even strangers you'll never meet. And the impact? It can be profound. Danielle's choice to humiliate Eloise didn't just harm her. It rippled out to her coworkers, the passengers, the airline, and even the community. One choice, one moment of thoughtless action, sent shockwaves through everything she held dear. When you knock over one domino, you may not see all the ones it will hit, but the effect is undeniable. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond. When you create negative ripples, you might not see the far-reaching consequences. You might not see how many lives are affected, how many opportunities are lost, or how many people are hurt. But trust me, the ripple is real. And it's not just about actions we regret. Sometimes, our decisions can have a positive effect that we can't always see in the moment. Maybe you've helped someone in a small way, offered kindness, or shown understanding, and you never knew the full impact. Think about how your actions affect those closest to you. Your family, your friends, your coworkers. They are the ones most impacted by the choices you make. Whether you're raising your kids, working with your colleagues, or sharing a moment with a friend, the way you choose to act has a ripple effect in your relationships. How often do you stop and think about how your behavior will affect the people you care about? You see, every time you make a choice, you affect the dynamics around you. One small act of kindness can change someone's day, but one small act of hostility can shatter trust. You are not an island. Your actions matter.